Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back your Disrupt MC and TechCrunch senior writer, Jordan Crook.
Sup? Thank you, John Cheever and Sam. I hope everybody had a good lunch. How was the food? Good? Good enough. All right, cool. We're all nourished. I'm not going to make any jokes about this next panel because they are the bosses of me. So without any further ado, please welcome to the stage Marni Walden from Verizon, Tim Armstrong, our AOL CEO, and moderator Anthony Ha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. So this is going to be sort of like, there's like kind of this trick to this interview, which is that I'm going to pretend as if both of you couldn't fire me if you didn't like the question. So we're just going to pretend that's not the case. Could get awkward. So there's a bunch of things I want to address. I think the sort of newsiest and biggest one is obviously Verizon is acquiring Yahoo. Tim, you and I spoke about that when that was announced, and you said it's an auction process, so we really haven't figured anything out. It's been a few months since then, so where are you guys at?
Well, first, it's great to be at TechCrunch and another sold-out show, so congratulations to you guys. I'd say, basically, we're just starting the process. So the summer, the auction closed, and then a lot of people were away in August. So we're with Marissa and her team. Basically, there's about 20, 21 work streams we're going through. And, my guess is by the time we get through the early fall, we'll have kind of more of the strategy wired down. And then we're going to do the overall premise is to do strategy, structure, and then how do we basically finance the future growth overall. So we're kind of in the strategy phase now. Then we'll get to structure, then we'll get to basically investment thesis areas overall. So, we're still on a time frame of Q1, probably for the close of it, and we've been really impressed with the whole Yahoo team and been spending a lot of time there, and all our teams have been integrated to spend time together. So there's no operating, it's all planning, but things are on track, and I think there's enthusiasm on both sides internally.
So I think the way a lot of people have written about the deal is the idea that basically the two of you were kind of instrumental in making it happen. Who was it initially who said, we should acquire Yahoo?
Well, maybe to step back when we did the AOL deal. So that began with Verizon just looking at a number of assets, some conversations between Lowell and Tim and I, saying if we put these things together, we think we could make it meaningful. But at that point, we also knew that we would need to do other things to get more audience, if you will, to the platform. And so we spent a lot of time looking at alternatives. Yahoo was one of those. And ultimately, I think the teams between Tim and teams at Verizon came together and said, this makes sense for us to go after this asset and put it together with AOL.
So I know, Tim, you said that it's sort of strategy first, which is sort of where you are, and like a lot of the details are still going to be figured out down the road. But if I were an employee at Yahoo or AOL, how worried should I be about my job?
Well, I think, Anthony, if you guys keep selling out events, it should be okay. But the bottom line is, the AOL's kind of been focused on three main areas, which has been the media business, building robust data sets, and then platforms overall. Yahoo has a similar type focus. There are differences there. So as we go through that, figuring out where we're going to end up as a business together is important. And I think that the most important thing we can do is, with the scale size company that we have combined, it would be ideal if at some point in the near future we're profitable and growing and investing in really robust technology and things around content. So I think from a jobs standpoint, that's why we started with strategy, because I think getting right into structure, I don't think Verizon would have done the deal if this was a cost structure only deal. And I think there are synergies, there will be synergies, and I'm sure there will be some job changes. but that's not what this deal has been about. The deal has been about how do you build a company for the future and take a bold strategy, aggressively focus on it, and try to move as fast as we possibly can to get to the outcome that will benefit everybody from growth.
So Marni, I do want to get in a second to maybe talk a little bit about Verizon's broader strategy here, but one more question on Yahoo is that one of the things that I think you alluded to and that Tim has mentioned as well is sort of what Yahoo brings to the table is to reach, is reaching all these different consumers. I think that sometimes there's a sense that maybe Yahoo isn't like growing its reach, isn't reaching the right consumers. Is that a concern?
Look, I think we needed to get into the billions. We talk about that in terms of eyeballs, and Yahoo certainly does that for us. But just like with any of our businesses, we need to continue to go after audiences, whether those are millennials. Global is a big initiative for Verizon, so Yahoo does some of that for us. AOL obviously does that, but we need to continue to look for ways to grow those. Verizon's made a couple of investments that both Tim and I work closely with in terms of complex media and Awesomeness TV. We're doing some of our own content and channels, and so those will all be ways that we try and go after multiple audiences so that we've got a reach across all of the growing businesses.
So, I mean, I think the way that a lot of people talk about the idea of Verizon acquiring AOL, acquiring Yahoo, just doing a lot of this sort of video advertising is this idea that as a carrier, you don't want to just be a dumb pipe, and so you're like frantically trying to get into another business.
We do not want to be a dumb pipe. Right.
I mean, how much of that is sort of essentially what the strategy is?
Well, so maybe to step back a bit. So a little over 2 years ago, I was asked to take on this new assignment. The role didn't really exist, but it was to really look at driving revenue for the future of Verizon. And so we took a look at all of the assets that we'd assemble at Verizon. We looked at our strength, and we said, look, we've been known as a network company, and we're proud of that, by the way. We think we've built one of the very best networks out there. That will be the foundation of our success. But we also said we wanted to be a platform company and a services company. Our lead in mobile certainly allows us to play in that space, so we are trying to take advantage of that. We've got really 2 or 3 key focus areas. One is the business that Tim runs for us. We've also made some pretty significant investments in the IoT space. So recently we just announced the acquisition of 2 fleet companies, which expands our fleet business, not only domestically but globally. One is closed. One we're still waiting for that one to close. Would expect that to happen in fourth quarter. And then just this morning we announced the acquisition of a company called Sensity, which has a head start in some of the smart community work. So we're super proud about that. But it is about monetizing above the network. When we have the network business, that's great, but we also believe that we have the right to play in the platform space and services as well.
Great. Well, maybe, Leah, let's take a minute and talk about the Internet of Things, because that's always fun and sexy. Why I mean, maybe in general, like, what is it that, like, Verizon, what is it that made them, or you, interested in that just as a general area of business?
Yeah, so Internet of Things is actually a space that Verizon has been in for quite some time. We have had relationships with automobile companies, OEMs, if you will, for many, many years, had the original General Motors business with OnStar. And so that part, the connectivity part, has been something that we've done for quite some time. Last year, we announced a platform called ThingSpace, which allows application developers to come and write applications on top of that. And then we also have some of our own branded services. We've released some financial numbers around this in our quarterly earnings, so we're doing roughly $200 million a quarter, and it's growing at 20%, and so it's a place that we naturally, with our distribution, with our networks, with the investments we've made in platforms and services, think that we can scale. And that, again, is not only a domestic business, that's a global business. We do business with the car relationships in China, in Europe, Japan, so all of those are places that we continue to expand and delivering some decent results on too.
And I would imagine for a company the size of Verizon, I mean, a couple $100 million in revenue per quarter is good, but really the excitement is around the potential for growth.
We like the numbers that have billions, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then last thing on that is you mentioned you acquired a company called Sensity, is that right?
Yes.
What was the rationale behind that acquisition?
So it's a company that has a lead in taking LED lighting, essentially, and using that for nodes inside cities. And so they have relationships, over 40 relationships across the U.S., where they're doing smart community work. And it just filled a space for us, not only from a talent perspective. The CEO is very, very talented and has a lot of headway in the space. So it not only accelerates our time to market, but gets us into some existing relationships and a technology that helps complete some of our work.
So the Yahoo acquisition didn't sort of take all your appetite for acquiring startups. It looks like that is going to continue.
Yeah, we're doing many. The charter I have, if you will, is to stand up several businesses that can generate or have the potential to generate billions of dollars of revenue for Verizon in the future. And so certainly the business that Tim is running is one of those, and Yahoo was a big piece of that. But also Tim did investments with Millennial Media and partnerships with Microsoft. But IoT is a space that we're very active in as well. So, both of those are getting some of my attention these days.
So, Tim, I mean, it's been about a year plus since the Verizon acquisition closed. How has AOL changed in that time? How has it sort of slid into the sort of broader Verizon technology and organization?
Well, you're there every day. What do you think?
Yeah, but we're behind the janitor's closet. No one talks to us. We
Right.
just kind of sit there and don't, just blog.
I think first of all, it's gone very well. The theory behind the Verizon deal was basically the combination of the two companies would help build essentially what was one of the largest mobile empowered media technology companies in the world. Since then, we did the Millennial deal, we did the Microsoft deal. We've done a significant amount of investing in video. We're about to open up a studio in New York City on the street, first internet-level street studio for AOL Build overall. And then, most importantly, I think we set out, when we did the deal with Verizon, we had a set of goals at AOL that we were striving to as a public company. And then once we did the Verizon deal, we redid those goals, and those goals have been a significant driver of what we've done. So I think if you went back 15 months and said, is AOL and Verizon going to be in a position where they're one of the largest consumer companies, one of the largest mobile companies, one of the largest video companies, I think you'd say, well, maybe if they work really hard. And today you wake up 15 months later and you say, look, they have all the assets in a portfolio, and if we do a good job working on those assets over the next few years, I think we can build one of the most substantial companies on the planet. And second of all is, we did all of those deals, if you average them together, at one-time revenue. So while you see massive valuations happening, especially during that time frame we're doing the deals, from a financial standpoint, we're probably the only company in the world that's aggregated assets together that gets you to over 1 billion consumers and done it at one-time revenue. So, there's always noise around what we do, but if you look at the kind of hardcore facts and the financial facts, and the fact that when AOL was a standalone company, we were able to beat the S&P 500 for the 5 or 6 years we were public. That is something I think that we take a lot of rigor in the strategy, and we take a lot of rigor in making sure that the company will be healthy, in the future. And we're really, I think people are generally pretty excited about where the future is. So looking back at the Verizon deal, hard to say it hasn't been a success. It feels like it's been a success. We have a lot of work to do, but it feels like it's been a success.
One of the other things, too, just about Verizon is we realized when we were setting up my organization and we wanted to put the new businesses in it, we did establish some independence so that Tim has the ability to go run his business, get the good stuff from Verizon, but maybe not some of the stuff that might slow him down. We do the same thing with our fleet business and our telematics business. So important that you recognize, how do you protect the cultures and the structure to make sure that you've got the room to run at the pace you want to run at.
It does seem like, so one of the ways that Verizon and AOL are trying to work together is on the advertising side, which I think presents a lot of opportunity, but also risks in terms of privacy and maybe inappropriately using some of the data you have on the Verizon side on the ad targeting side. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about what you guys are doing to protect privacy?
Yeah, so we've been very transparent about this. So we've got an opt-in process with clear disclosure to customers, and we're working through how do we, get those opt-ins so that customers know exactly what we're doing. So, that's one of the rules, certainly with the Verizon side, is that we need to make sure we protect that from a brand perspective, and then what we've held up with our customers. We do have aggregated anonymous data that we can utilize, but any of the targeted stuff, we absolutely follow the opt-in process.
Right. So anonymized, you don't necessarily opt into, but anything that's sort of targeted or personalized.
Anonymized is opt-out. Targeted, you have to opt into. Yeah.
Okay. And then the opt-in, when does that actually appear?
So we do it in a number of ways. Today, it's done through a program called Verizon Selects, which is a loyalty program. So if you sign up for it, you opt into that. We look at a number of other things that have not yet hit the market, but thinking about how we can give good value exchange for customers, allowing us to use that, and clearly disclosing it. So, but the Selects process is the biggest way we do it today.
So another aspect of Verizon moving into digital is this video app, Go90. So this may be a little cruel, but let's see. How many people in the audience have watched videos on the Go90 app? All right, we've got some hands, not a ton.
Well, first of all of you that work for TechCrunch, you should have raised your hands.
Okay, so
raise your hand?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yes, definitely. A handful of people in the TechCrunch section have raised their hands. How in general? I realize for something that is fairly ambitious, it's early on, but how is that going overall?
Yeah, so here's what I would say. We have learned a lot. We've been experimenting with content, so we've found some things that work extremely well. Live sports, live music, concerts work really well. We had record numbers of viewers for not only the Super Bowl, some of the NBA content, certainly Mexican soccer, and we also have Premier European League. Some of the originals that we've done with ATV, targeted for 12 to 24-year-olds, girls skewing younger than that, has done very well. Some of the other content has not done as well. So I think we're learning. We've learned about the platform as well, and we've recently moved that to the AOL tech stack, and we're adding some additional features. So I would tell you I'm encouraged by engagement. I think we've learned a lot about content. You're going to see us continue to work that model and to get it right. The other thing that we did with the Runner, which was an original that we did, it was the first time we took content and moved it not only in the Go90 app, but we took it across the digital platform of AOL. And that's really what you'll see more of as we think about content. We'll take it across the Go90 app, but we'll leverage content across all of the Verizon and AOL and soon to be Yahoo assets. So you'll see that content flowing on digital properties. You'll see it flowing on Fios, which is our offering on the East Coast, no longer on the West Coast. And then as we move into the world of 5G, you'll also see that content show up there. So, I feel encouraged. I think, again, learned a lot, things that we would do differently. But with any new product, I think you're going to have that learning curve. I think what's interesting, particularly for Verizon, is when Verizon does something typically around its networks or its wireless business, you don't see us go out and test things. And so this is a little bit different for us. And I think you'll see us be successful, but we've got some things that we want to change as we move forward.
So when you talk about this idea of taking the content and moving it across all the different properties, do you think that Go90 is necessarily central to Verizon's video strategy going forward, or could you see that? The exact mix of properties could, you're not necessarily wedded to any of it.
Go90 is a piece of that. So what we like about Go90 is it hits a mobile audience. Obviously, we have strength there, but we also have most of that content showing up on any network, so it's not just Verizon network. So it's a piece of the strategy, but it's not the entire strategy.
So one thing I did want to get to was that, Tim, I think last week there was a two-part Vanity Fair piece, which was about Arianna Huffington leaving the Huffington Post, and the implication was basically that you weren't necessarily happy with her performance, and she'd been kind of pushed out. Is there any truth to that?
So I think, first, that the Arianna Huffington as a person and as a leader, I think, I did her going away party last Wednesday night, and I'll say the same thing here that I said at that party, which was, she is somebody who's a world-class talent, world-class hard worker, and really put herself out there as an entrepreneur to do something that was really differentiated, and I think helped change the way that online news and information got done. And when we acquired the Huffington Post, it had 20 to 30 million users. The day she left, it was 170 million to 200, over 200 million users. So I think that almost any metric, it was U.S. only, it's now in 15, going into 16 countries overall. Almost any metric you look at it from where we bought it to when Ariana left has been a huge success. I have a close personal relationship with Ariana and her family, her daughters, her sister. And I think that I didn't read the Vanity Fair article, but my guess is, there's people in the media business love the drama, and it's not show friends, it's show business. And our business with Huffington Post has done really well. It's a huge group of talented people, and I think we are going to aggressively pursue trying to become the #1 news provider in the world. And I think that the Yahoo News people are really talented, also. So I think the combination of what we've put together, Ariana's original vision to where the Huffington Post is today to where it's going to go, we're in a very, very good position for global news, and we're going to attack that space aggressively.
So we're almost out of time, but one last thing I wanted to ask about was, I think one of the things, Tim, you've talked about is this idea of turning AOL/Verizon, soon to be /Yahoo, into one of the top tier digital media companies, internet companies. I think that on almost any measure, and certainly in terms of advertising, right, Google and Facebook just take up the vast majority of the pie. So, I mean, how do we get from where we are now to actually being in that top tier? I mean, do you really think that's possible?
Yeah, so I'll just do this briefly. I had our executive team over at my house last week for 2 days, and we had some SEAL Team 6 members over, and we built a map, basically, of the whole internet space. And I'm a huge reader of history and military history, and I firmly believe that we're going to win if we have the high ground in certain areas. And I think that there's 2 strategies I know that won't work. One is the anything but Google and anything but Facebook strategy. That's not a strategy that works. And the second is being a follower of Facebook and Google. And I think that the way we differentiated at AOL, when nobody liked content, we bought that TechCrunch and the Huffington Post. Before people got into video, we got heavily into video. I think you'll see us make those type of moves. And then we're going to work with the Yahoo team to do the global strategy, and Marni and team at Verizon. But I would leave TechCrunch listening to our talk thinking that we're thinking deeply about not about Google and Facebook, but about doing things for clients. And if social is Facebook and Google is search, our company's going to be brand. And that could be the brand you wake up into the morning. It could be Yahoo. It could be the brand that you look at in the tech space. It could be TechCrunch. Or it could be the best brand advertising platform in the world, which might be AOL One or one of the Yahoo platforms. So I think we're not planning on competing with Facebook and Google. We're probably the only company in the internet space that partners with everyone. We partner with Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Samsung. We're partners with everybody because we can win with partnerships, and our strategy is differentiated enough to do that. So I'm not worried about Facebook and Google. I'm worried about what we're doing together, and that's kind of what we're focused on.
Cool. I think that's a great note to end on. Thanks again.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.